Welcome back to Outside Views Books. Fatherland by Robert Harris is one of those books that just pulls you in from the very first page. It's set in an alternate history where Nazi Germany won World War II, and it manages to build a world that feels both familiar and incredibly unsettling at the same time. And what I really love about this book is the atmosphere. It's not just a typical thriller or detective story. It's deeper than that. You are constantly reminded of the weight of history, of how things could have turned out if history took a different path. The protagonist, Xavier March, is an investigator with the Kripo, the German criminal police, and you get drawn into his journey as he uncovers secrets that shouldn't exist in this so-called victorious world. Harris is a master at creating suspense, and even though I won't spoil anything, I'll say that the twists and turns keep you on the edge of your seat. And what also stands out is the attention to detail in the world building. Harris has clearly done his homework when it comes to the historical aspects, and it shows. He mixes real historical figures with fictional ones in a way that feels seamless. The setting in 1964 Berlin is a character in itself, with all the grand Nazi architecture and the eerie sense of control and surveillance. It's really haunting, but fascinating at the same time. The alternate history genre is tricky because you have to get the reader to buy into the world you're creating. And Harris does that effortlessly. He doesn't just imagine a world where things turn out differently. He makes you feel like you're living in it. And I appreciate how Fatherland makes you think about moral dilemmas and the consequences of unchecked power. And without giving too much away, the book asks some uncomfortable questions about complicity and resistance. How would you act in a world like this? Would you be able to see the truth, or would you be blinded by the propaganda? One of the reasons I like this book so much is that it doesn't just give you a straightforward detective story. It makes you reflect. It's thought-provoking. It's engaging. And even though the setting is dark and the themes are heavy, there's something incredibly compelling about the way the story unfolds. And the pacing is perfect too. Just when you think you've figured things out, Harris throws you a curveball into the game that completely changes the game. And yet it never feels forced. Every twist feels earned. What's also interesting is how the book plays with history. It's not just about an alternate past, it's about how history is manipulated and controlled. The regime in this book rewrites history to suit its own narrative, and that's something that really resonates, especially when you think about how information can be controlled in our real world. And the characters are also richly drawn, each with their own motivations and complexities. And Xavier March is a flawed hero, which makes him relatable. He's grappling with his own conscience while trying to navigate a society that's built on lies. And his interactions with other characters, especially those who are in positions of power, are both tense and revealing. And they expose the moral compromises people make to survive in oppressive regimes. And Harris doesn't shy away from showing the dark side of humanity. And that's part of what makes Fatherland so impactful. It challenges you to think about what you would do in similar circumstances. Would you stand up for what's right, or would you choose self-preservation? And another aspect I find fascinating is the use of language in the book. Harris' prose is sharp and evocative, and he uses dialogue to reveal character and tension. You can almost feel the weight of the words as they hang in the air. And the way he describes Berlin, the streets, the buildings, the atmosphere, it all adds to the sense of dread and inevitability. And this book doesn't just tell a story. It immerses you in a world that feels real and immediate. And the historical context is crucial here. Harris weaves in real events and figures, creating a rich tapestry that adds depth to the narrative. And it's fascinating to see how he takes actual history and twists it to create a narrative that's both engaging and thought-provoking. And even as the story moves forward, you are constantly reminded of the past and how it shapes the present. But let's talk about the conclusion for a moment, and don't worry. While I won't spoil it, I will say that it's both satisfying and unsettling. Harris doesn't tie everything up neatly, which feels fitting given the subject matter. It leaves you with questions and lingering thoughts, encouraging you to reflect on the implications long after you've closed the book. And if you haven't read Fatherland yet, I highly recommend picking it up. It's the kind of book that stays with you long after you've finished it. And there's a lot to unpack, and I think that's why I like it so much. It's not just a quick read. It's the type of story that makes you pause and think. And that's what great books are all about, right? In a world filled with noise and distraction, Fatherland stands out as a powerful reminder of the importance of history, morality, and the choices we make. So dive into it and prepare for a gripping experience that will challenge your perceptions and leave you pondering long after you turn the last page. And if you want to see another video, the next one is right here in the end screen.